Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into this Sparkplug B thing.
Oh, yeah.
You sent over some stuff from the Eclipse Foundation, and this YouTube video, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about Sparkplug B is that it uses MQTT, like the 3.1.1 standard.
Right.
But before we get too far into Sparkplug, maybe we should back up and just explain what MQTT is, just in case someone's unfamiliar with that.
Yeah, for sure.
We don't want to get ahead of ourselves or anything.
Yeah, let's set the stage here.
Right.
Okay, so MQTT, imagine you have all these devices, all these sensors and machines and everything.
Yeah.
They're all part of this thing we call the Internet of Things.
Right.
And they need a way to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And MQTT is like their language.
It's like if they had a language, it would be MQTT.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's this messaging protocol that's really lightweight, and it's perfect for when you have limited bandwidth.
Right. Or, spotty connection.
Yeah.
Which happens a lot with these, these industrial applications and stuff.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like sending a text instead of like doing a video call.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about like efficiency and reliability,
Right.
keeping things lightweight.
Okay.
So then Sparkplug B kind of comes in and says, okay, well, we're going to take these ideas and we're going to tailor them specifically for industrial applications.
Okay, so how does it do that? How does it take that to the next level?
Well, you have all this stuff happening at the edge of the network,
Okay.
like all these sensors and controllers and things.
Right.
Those are like your edge nodes.
Mm-hmm.
And Sparkplug is really good at collecting all that information,
Okay.
making sure it gets where it needs to go.
Okay, so it's like having this dedicated communication system
Yeah.
for the factory floor.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's built on top of MQTT, which is already really solid.
Right, right. Yeah. And the video mentioned this thing called store and forward.
Oh, yeah.
What is that all about?
So in a factory, you don't always have the best internet.
That's true.
Things are moving around. There's interference.
Yeah.
It's just like a messy environment,
Yeah.
For
sure.
And so sometimes the connection drops out.
Mm-hmm.
And so store and forward means that if the connection to an edge node drops out, it just stores the data.
Locally.
Yeah, locally.
Okay.
And then when the connection comes back up, it just sends everything.
Oh, wow.
So you don't lose any data.
That's really cool. So it's like a safety net for your data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about those gaps in the data.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I also noticed they were talking about custom data types.
Oh, yeah.
How does that work?
So you know how like with normal MQTT,
Yeah.
you just get like a number from a sensor,
Okay.
like you get a temperature reading or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But with Sparkplug, you can define these custom data types.
Okay.
It's kind of like what you see in OPC UA.
Okay.
And so you can bundle the data together in a way that makes more sense.
So just like you can send the temperature, but you can also send like the units or a timestamp or like a quality code or something.
So it's more than just like a raw number.
That's like a little package of information.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And the video also said something about using compression to save bandwidth.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Can you explain how that works?
Sure. So, when you're collecting data from like hundreds or thousands of sensors,
Right.
that's a lot of data.
Yeah, that's a lot of data.
And it can clog up the network if you're not careful.
Right.
So Sparkplug uses these compression algorithms
That's-
to make the data smaller so it transmits faster and uses less bandwidth.
So it's like packing a suitcase really efficiently.
Exactly. Yeah, you can fit more in without making it heavier.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how the data is transmitted, but how is it organized? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so Sparkplug has this thing called a topic namespace.
Okay.
It's kind of like the file system on your computer.
You know how you have folders and subfolders?
Right.
Well, Sparkplug uses these things called group IDs and edge node IDs and device IDs
Okay.
to organize all the data in a hierarchy.
So it's not just like a big jumbled mess.
Right. It's all structured and organized so you can find what you need.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So all this data, it's going to an MQTT broker, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And does that broker need to know anything about Sparkplug?
Nope, not really.
Oh, okay.
As long as the broker supports MQTT 3.1.1, it can handle Sparkplug data just fine.
Oh, that's cool. So it can be on the same broker as like regular MQTT traffic.
Exactly. Yeah. It all just works together.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about this production line example they had in the video.
Oh, yeah.
Can you walk me through that?
Sure. So imagine you have this production line
Okay.
with a bunch of PLCs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that control the machines.
Right?
And you have all these sensors monitoring everything.
Yeah.
Sparkplug lets you group all that data from the PLCs and sensors into an edge node that represents the entire production line.
So it's like a unified view of the whole line.
Exactly, yeah. You can see everything that's going on in one place.
Okay, that's really neat.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned some specific software that supports Sparkplug.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Like what?
Well, there's Ignition Edge and Factory Talk and Canary Labs Historian
Okay.
and a bunch of others.
Wow. So it's not just like a theoretical thing. People are actually using it?
Yeah, it's being used in the real world.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
This has been a really great overview of Sparkplug.
Yeah. We covered a lot.
I think we should probably pause here for now.
Yeah, let's let this all sink in.
We've talked about what Sparkplug is, how it works, and some of the software that uses it. When we come back, we'll talk about what all of this means for someone running a factory or a plant.
Yeah, we'll get into the practical applications.
Sounds good.
See you in a bit.
Okay, so welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent a good amount of time talking about how Sparkplug B works.
Right, all the technical details.
Yeah, but now I want to talk about how this actually plays out in the real world.
Yeah, you want to like bridge that gap between theory and practice.
Exactly. Like we have this system for, collecting and transmitting data. But what does that actually mean for someone who's, running a plant or a factory?
Yeah, what does it look like on the ground?
Exactly.
So imagine you're in charge of this huge factory.
Okay.
You have like hundreds, maybe even thousands of sensors and PLCs and other devices.
Right.
And they're all generating tons of data all the time.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so Sparkplug B comes in, and it gives you a way to organize all of that data.
Okay.
So you're not just drowning in a sea of numbers.
Right, so you can actually make sense of it.
Exactly. And more importantly, you can use it to make better decisions.
Give me an example. Like, how does that actually work?
Okay, so let's say you have a temperature sensor on a piece of equipment, and suddenly it starts reading way too high. With Sparkplug B, that data gets packaged up nicely,
right,
and it gets sent to your monitoring system right away.
And even if there's a network problem.
Yeah, even if the connection drops out for a bit.
Thanks to that store and forward thing.
Exactly. Store and forward saves the day.
That's awesome.
So you get this alert saying, hey, this temperature is too high. You need to check this out.
And you can fix the problem before it becomes a disaster.
Exactly. You can prevent downtime. You can save money.
Right.
It's all about being proactive.
So it's not just about reacting to problems.
Right.
You can actually use this data to improve things.
Exactly. You can optimize your processes.
Okay, so how would you do that?
Well, you now have all this historical data.
Right.
Right? You can analyze it. You can look for trends. You can see what's working and what's not.
Okay.
And then you can make changes based on that data.
So it's not just like a gut feeling anymore.
Right. It's all based on evidence.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, Sparkplug B sounds great. How do I get started?
That's a great question.
What are some of the things they need to think about?
Well, first you need to look at your current infrastructure.
Okay.
Do you already have an MQTT system in place?
And if not, do they need to set one up?
It's not strictly necessary.
Okay.
I mean, Sparkplug B is built on top of MQTT.
Right.
But you could start with a smaller implementation.
Okay.
Just focus on one area where you want to try out Sparkplug.
So you don't have to go all in right away.
Exactly. You can start small and scale up as needed.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I know Sparkplug was designed specifically for industrial environments. What are some of the features that make it so well suited for that?
Well, one of the biggest things is reliability.
Okay.
Industrial environments are tough.
Yeah.
You have temperature swings.
Yeah.
You have electrical noise. You have unreliable connections.
Yeah, sure.
And Sparkplug B is built to handle all of that.
Oh.
It has store and forward. It has data compression.
Right.
It has those birth and death certificates we talked about earlier.
Right.
It's just really robust.
So it can take a beating.
Pretty much, yeah.
And what about security?
Yeah, security is huge these days.
Especially in an industrial setting.
Exactly. These systems are becoming more and more connected.
Right.
Which means they're more vulnerable to attacks.
Yeah.
So Sparkplug B uses the security features of MQTT.
Okay.
Like encryption and authentication.
So the data is protected.
Yes, as much as possible.
And we also talked about that topic namespace thing.
Right. The way the data is organized.
Yeah, does that help with security too?
It can, because it makes it easier to manage access control.
Okay.
You can make sure that only the right people have access to the right data.
Right.
And it also helps with interoperability.
Okay. How so?
Well, because the data is structured in a standard way,
right,
it's easier to integrate with different systems and applications.
So it's like having a common language that everyone can understand.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes everything work together more smoothly.
So it's not just about efficiency and reliability.
Right.
It's also about security and interoperability.
Yeah, all of those things are important.
So we've talked about all these benefits of Spark-Plug-B, but I'm curious what's next. What's on the horizon for this technology?
Well, one thing that's happening is that Sparkplug is being integrated with newer versions of MQTT,
Okay.
like MQTT 5,
Okay.
which has a bunch of new features and improvements.
So it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's always getting better.
That's cool.
And there's also a lot of interest in using Sparkplug for edge computing.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit because you can process the data right there at the edge.
So you don't have to send it all the way back to the cloud.
Exactly. It's faster and more efficient.
Wow, it sounds like Spark-Plug-B is really shaping the future of industrial data management.
It definitely is. It's a very exciting technology.
This has been really eye-opening.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
I think we need another break.
Sounds good.
We've talked about the practical implications of Spark-Plug-B and some of the challenges and trends.
Yeah,
When we come back, we'll wrap things up and talk about the bigger picture.
sounds good.
See you in a bit. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our Spark-Plug-B deep dive. And, we've really dug into the details, how it works, the benefits, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we've really, unpacked it.
But now I want to zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about the bigger picture. How does Spark-Plug-B fit into this whole, Industry 4.0 thing?
Right, what's the big impact here?
Yeah, exactly. We know it can, improve data management in a factory, but what does that actually mean for the future of industry?
So this is where it gets really exciting because it's not just about the data itself.
Okay.
It's about what you can do with that data.
Right.
Imagine a factory where the production line is not just automated, but it's actually self-optimizing.
Okay.
It's constantly learning and adjusting based on the data it's collecting. Yeah, so you have all these sensors feeding data into an AI system or something.
Okay.
And it's figuring out how to run things as efficiently as possible.
So it's like the factory is thinking for itself.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's not just limited to a single factory.
Okay.
You can apply this to entire supply chains.
Yeah, wow.
Imagine manufacturers and suppliers and distributors all sharing data in real time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it would revolutionize everything.
Okay, so what kind of benefits are we talking about?
Well, you'd have better inventory management,
Okay.
more efficient logistics.
Mm-hmm.
You could even, predict demand before it happens.
And that means less waste, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And happier customers because they get their products faster.
So it's like a win-win for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very exciting vision of the future.
And Spark-Plug-B is a key part of making that happen.
Yeah, it's the foundation for this whole connected ecosystem.
This is really cool stuff, but I'm sure there are some challenges too.
Oh.
What kind of things do companies need to think about before they jump into Spark-Plug-B?
Well, one thing is that you need people who understand it.
Right.
You need engineers and technicians who know how to work with MQTT and Sparkplug and all that.
So training is important.
Yeah, definitely. And you also need to make sure that everyone's using it the same way.
Okay, standardization.
Exactly. Because if everyone's doing their own thing, then it's not really an ecosystem anymore.
Right, it just becomes a bunch of silos.
Yeah, exactly. So the industry needs to work together to develop some best practices.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what are some of the things that are going to shape the future of Spark-Plug-B?
Well, one thing that's happening is that the lines between IT and OT are blurring.
Okay, what does that mean?
So IT is your traditional information technology,
Right.
Computers and networks and software.
Right.
And OT is operational technology,
Yeah.
the systems that control physical processes in a factory or a plant.
Right.
And Spark-Plug-B kind of sits in the middle.
Oh.
It's the bridge between those two worlds.
And those worlds are coming closer together, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're converging, and that's making Sparkplug even more important.
And what about edge computing?
Yeah, edge computing is huge right now.
And we talked about how Sparkplug is a good fit for that.
Yeah, it's perfect for edge because you can process the data right there on the device instead of sending it all the way to the cloud.
So it's faster and more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And it opens up new possibilities for real-time control.
This is all really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, Spark-Plug-B is definitely a technology to keep an eye on.
This deep dive has been amazing.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We started with the basics of MQTT.
Right.
Then we dug into all the details of Spark-Plug-B. And now we've talked about the big picture, the impact on industry and the future of the technology.
Yeah, it's been a great journey.
I'm sure listeners are going to be thinking about this for a while.
I hope so.
And if they want to learn more, where should they go?
Well, the Eclipse Foundation is a great resource.
Yeah.
They have tons of information on their website.
Okay. And what about connecting with other people who are using Sparkplug?
Yeah, there's a really active community out there.
Okay.
You can find them online, in forums, and on social media.
Cool. So there's lots of ways to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been an awesome deep dive into Spark Plug B.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure having you, and